Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News. Today's guest is Andy Warne, who is Managing Director of National Milk Records. National Milk Records listed in London on the Aquis market. Andy, welcome back on the show. You've just published last week a very strong set of full-year results. Give us a quick walk through the highlights, please.
Yeah, so the highlights are, in very simplistic terms, is we're doing what we said we would do. So we're it's a strong set of numbers, but it's strong in that you can see the incremental improvement year on year, which follows the same incremental improvement we had in the previous year as well. So if you line up those, it's almost, you don't compare year on year with last year. It's 2 years in a row where, whichever metric you want to look at, whether it's revenue or EBITDA or operating profit, we are improving our business performance. So I think the word that you would describe in terms of highlight is yes, it's a solid business performance, but most importantly, it's building the foundation of a business model which we can then carry forward in the next 2 to 3 years and improve it and get some growth in terms of the top line. So the business model is good. I still want to get more in terms of cows on the database and actually drive the top line revenue in terms of improving market share. And that's the job of the next couple of years. The other good thing is that you can see the investment. Yes, our net debt is down, and yes, we're going to pay a dividend, but you can see the investment that we're making in terms of a GeneCell's license that we've bought for the US. You can see the investment we're making in terms of new equipment, and you can see the investment that we're taking in terms of our software systems.
Well, I was going to ask you, because as you say, look at all the financials, and year on year, they're all moving in the right directions. That's great. But inside the business, fundamentally, what is it that's actually driving this financial improvement?
So if you look at the product sectors, then our old friend Yoni's testing, which has been a star performer, is continuing to show year on year growth. And again, things like software sales, where there's a sort of an improvement in terms of our market share. But again, if you look at farmers, only 1 in 3 of them is using on-farm software. So that means two in 3 of them aren't. And so still room to grow. But the biggest star is genomics testing is up 78%. Okay, from a low base, but we anticipate that growth throughout this financial year and then going forward. So yes, different sectors improving different times.
Yeah. So the lab that you have, the genomics lab, is now fully operational. I remember you coming on the program some while ago, and we're talking about it, coming into being, but it's now fully operational. As a result of the genomics lab now being fully operational, what opportunities are going to be opened up for National Milk Records?
So 2 things basically. So there's genomics testing itself, which is where we are. You're looking at the DNA profile of individual animals. So we have both our own brand of that, which is Gene's, but we're also working very closely with Genus in terms of their Gene Advantage brand. So in that sector, you're very much looking at the individual performance or future performance of young animals. Look at the DNA. Is it going to be a good cow or a bad cow in simplistic terms? So there's genomics testing itself, but genomics testing then enables this disruptive technology which we're talking about, which is GeneCells, which is an innovation in our core milk recording business. And we would hope to be providing that GeneCell service by the end of the first quarter in 2023.
I was going to ask you about GeneCells, because that's, I think you said first quarter 2023. It's going to be launched in the United States, isn't it? So what can we expect from GeneCells in the States?
Well, if you just think of very simple numbers, there's 1.8 million dairy cows in the UK. There are 10 million dairy cows in the US. The potential opportunity is fivefold. I think when people said, "Oh well, NMR's going to start selling GINA cells in the US," there was a little bit of, well, how are they going to do that then? Because they don't have any infrastructure. But as you know, we have friends, and so we operate in the UK with a number of genetics companies. We operate in the UK with a number of pharmaceutical companies, and we would see our ability then to use those established commercial relationships to then, if you like, leapfrog the Atlantic and then repeat some of that revenue in the US. So our margins will be affected by the fact that we're going to be working with third parties in the US. But again, it's a great opportunity. We would expect to be operational in 2023 in the US market as well.
So tremendous growth here and abroad. Let me just finally ask you about the state of the, I suppose, the UK dairy industry, Andy. Can you give us a few comments on how you see the UK dairy industry and what that does for National Milk Records in pursuing its growth strategy?
98% of households in the UK buy dairy. That's not changed. During COVID, during lockdown, people kind of fell in love with cooking again. So cheese and butter sales are higher than they were 3 years ago. So the dairy sector is effectively in good shape. And the interesting thing which has happened in the last 6 months is that in this high inflation environment, you've seen the inflation that farmers have been suffering, if you like, in terms of feed and fertilizer, has been fed through, and so the retailers have passed that price rise through onto the shelves, and then the consumer is paying more for milk, paying more for dairy and cheese. And so the farmer has been protected and if you like has enjoyed the fact that those price rises that they have suffered have been passed through. So the farmers are in reasonable shape at the moment, if you like. You'll never find a happy farmer who's saying, "I'm making an absolute fortune," but effectively, they've been protected from their own inflation. And they are making a reasonable margin in terms of the dairy products that are being bought by the members of the public. So the dairy industry effectively is in a pretty good place. It's a staple. I'm very glad that we're as a business, we are absolutely a foundation part of the supply of a staple in a very challenging business environment. Everybody's still buying milk and cheese.
Good to hear. Andy, thanks for joining us. That was Andy Warne, Managing Director of National Milk Records. As I said at the start of the program, National Milk Records listed in London on the Aquis market. That's it from this edition of Blythe Ray Business News. Thanks for watching.